Hi there, good morning, it's Ash from Churchill's Estate Agents, and on this video I wanted to talk to you about the York housing market as ever, but alleviate some concerns as we're hearing a lot of people concerned about house price drops in the York area. Well, let's go into it. So the York property market experienced a boom between summer of 2020 and the late summer of 2022, fueled mainly by the pandemic-induced trends such as stamp duty stimulus, low mortgage rates, the race for space and the rise of remote working. 2023 has presented a very different story for the York housing market, with cooling demand, rising mortgage rates and declining home sales from the previous 2 years. Many York homeowners are now concerned about a possible fall in York home prices as the newspapers predict a housing recession. Nonetheless, there are several reasons why homeowners should not fear York house price drops. This video will explore 14 key factors that can provide reassurance in these uncertain times. So firstly, let's talk about the strength of the York job market. The job market is crucial in determining home prices, directly impacting income levels. Fortunately, the York job market remains robust, with unemployment hovering near all-time lows of just 3.6%. Labour shortages are currently a more significant concern than a lack of job opportunities. As long as the job market remains stable, York home prices should be firm and prevent substantial house price falls. Next point is 2023 is very different from 2008. So what I mean by this, comparing the current York housing market to the 2008 credit crunch reveals a significant difference. The housing bubble that led to the crisis was primarily driven by subprime mortgages in the USA, resulting in a wave of defaults. This spread to the UK and banks stopped lending to each other and mortgage borrowers. Today's York property market differs significantly for 4 reasons. Firstly, York homeowners have built substantial equity in their properties since 2008. Secondly, many York homeowners with a mortgage have taken advantage of remortgaging at a lower fixed rate during the pandemic, meaning they are immune to the recent hike in interest rates. Thirdly, the banks are prepared to lend money, unlike 2008 where there was a severe lack of credit as banks weren't prepared to lend money. And finally, the Bank of England in 2014 told lenders to stress test every mortgage application up to 6% or 6.5% mortgage rates. These 4 points have reduced the threat of widespread defaults even if the UK economy were to enter into a recession. The next point is about the long game of York home ownership. So what I mean by this is most York homeowners view their household as more than just a house. It's a home. It's more than just a financial asset. You know, the home represents a lifestyle choice. Despite potential house price declines over the next few years, York homeowners' long-term perspective should remain intact. Throughout British history, home prices have always appreciated over time, even after the financial crisis of 2008. York homeowners who held onto their properties during the credit crunch eventually saw York house prices return to the pre-credit crunch 2008 peak of by July 2014, I should say. And here is where playing the long game is so important in the York property market. Since July 2014, £121,252 has been added in additional equity to the average York home. So it's so easy to fixate on the short term and forget the medium to long term gains made by property. The next point is inflation should be actually conceded is good news effectively for York homeowners and landlords. So while inflation may be a cause for concern in various aspects of daily life, it can benefit most homeowners and landlords. Inflation often leads to increased house prices and reduces any mortgage's real value, thus acting as a hedge against rising costs. Higher wages resulting from inflation will improve affordability, thereby supporting home prices. And the key is avoiding inflation leading to a full-blown recession, which could negatively impact the housing market. Next point is positive implications for going upmarket. So a national home price decline can be good news for homeowners looking to move up to a bigger or more expensive property. Such a decline would reduce the price gap between selling their home and purchasing the next one. So for example, if you were planning to move from a £300,000 York home to a £500,000 York home today, excluding moving expenses, it would cost you an additional £200,000 to move home, right? So let's say, for example, the York house prices drop by 10%, The £300,000 house would now be reduced to £270,000, and the £500,000 house would be reduced to £450,000, meaning the gap between the two would only be £180,000, hence saving you money. The next point is about a persistent housing shortage. Now, you might hear me banging on about this in other videos, but the national housing shortage, which originated during the financial crisis when home builders scaled back construction, remains a significant factor in supporting home prices. Analysts estimate that the market needs to add around 4 million new homes to meet current demand fully. Given the cooling of the market and rising mortgage rates, home builders are still cautious about increasing construction. As long as the housing shortage persists, which it will without an additional 2 million homes being built, it should help sustain home prices. My next point is about the York rental market dynamics. So, soaring rental prices is another consequence of inflation, it's another reason for homeowners to be content with their current ownership status. Homeowners with fixed rate mortgages enjoy the stability of locked-in monthly mortgage payments, and in contrast, York renters face the challenges with increases of 10% or even 20% per annum on new properties coming onto the market. This is on some types of properties, of course, due to our ongoing lack of properties to rent. The rise in rental prices is encouraging more York people to consider home ownership, maintaining demand and supporting property prices. The next one is about anticipated mortgage rate reduction. So while recent rate hikes from the Bank of England have affected the housing market, there is an expectation of easing in the near future. According to the money market's latest forecast, based on the 5-year swap rate, the bank rate is projected to fall in early 2024. A decline in the Bank of England rate would lead to a decrease in mortgage rates. So if the economy remains stable during that period, declining mortgage rates could support house price growth. Another point to bring to mention is expected moderate decline. So economists generally predict that any potential home price decline will be modest, with the current support from the housing shortage, inflationary trends, and well-capitalised mortgage owners. A moderate single-digit decrease is more likely than a severe crash like in 2008. Such a moderate decline should be less intimidating for York homeowners. And one other point I wanted to raise is potential for renovation costs dropping. So the demand for home ownership improvement during the pandemic led to a surge of 41.9% in construction materials in the 2 years after lockdown. However, in the last 12 months, overall building costs have fallen by 1% despite deflation. Some notable drops include timber dropping 27.6% over the previous 12 months, although cement is up 13.7%. Price reductions in new construction might lead to even more easing of renovation costs. The trajectory of renovation costs will depend on the housing market and broader economic conditions. Another point I will add is the property market loop of recovery. So again, what I mean by this in a bit more detail, if home prices were to fall, it would likely be driven by a weakened home buyer demand rather than an oversupply of homes. Such a decline would indicate an economic slowdown of recession, prompting the Bank of England to respond with interest rate cuts. Lower interest rates would subsequently reduce mortgage rates, giving home buyers a boost in affordability and ultimately contributing to the market's recovery. So one other thing I will say is that house price drops only affect you if you sell, but that's worth bearing in mind. A decline in York home prices might psychologically impact homeowners, even though it may not affect them directly if they do not plan to sell soon. House prices can only affect you if you are moving. So with that in mind, 96.54% of homeowners will still be in their homes in 12 months. So they won't lose money if their property market dips. Price change only affects those looking to buy and sell. So don't be held hostage by market trends. Know when the time to buy, and just as importantly, when to sit tight. And I will add one more point, which is actual value of home ownership. So the pandemic has brought heightened attention to the value of homes, with widespread discussions on the housing market and price speculations. However, York homeowners' connection to their homes goes beyond financial considerations. It is often rooted in the relationships shared with loved ones, the sense of community, the peace of mind derived from home ownership, and the efforts invested in the property. The true value of home ownership transcends mere monetary figures. And one last point I will raise, and this should be it, is the rarity of prolonged price declines. Prolonged for home prices declines lasting 5+ years, especially those as severe as the early mid-1990s era housing busts, are infrequent. Throughout the last century, national home prices have only declined occasionally and typically required a unique combination of events. While recent price surges have led to a speculation about a potential decline, numerous market tailwinds and the reasons above should prevent a sharp plunge and potential avert any significant house price crash. But what if York house prices do drop? Well, ignoring the points I've mentioned and gone into detail on, well, let's see what a price reduction would mean for York homeowners. The peak of the property market just before the credit crunch here in our local authority area, this is the City of York, was July 2007, when the average value of a property was £202,883. The York property market bottomed out in April 2009 when York property prices dropped to £168,458, a drop of 16.9%. Today, the average property in York and the local authority area stands at £324,135. So if a York house prices drop by 10% to £291,721, they would only return to the levels that they were achieved in York October 2021. And nobody was complaining about those, were they? Let's be honest. Now, don't get me wrong, if house prices do drop by 10%, a tiny percentage of homeowners, in fact 2.83% of all homeowners that have bought in the last 2 years, will be in negative equity. However, that is only an issue if they decide to sell the property. And as we all know, home ownership is a long-term thing. And most of those who would have negative equity will probably be on a 5-year fixed rate, low rate mortgage. But what if York houses prices dropped by the same percentage, or 16.9% as mentioned previously? Well, as they did in the global financial crisis in 2008. Well, if that were the case, York house prices would only return to the house price levels achieved in February 2021, although the number of people in negative equity would increase slightly. As York homeowners face uncertainty regarding potential house price drops, it is crucial to recognise the various factors that support the housing market's resilience. While economic conditions can fluctuate, history has shown that the housing values tend to appreciate over the long term. York homeowners can take comfort in differences between the 2023 market and the 2008 housing bubble, including stronger equity positions and a more regulated lending environment. As we navigate the market cycles, York homeowners should remain focused on their long-term goals, the strength of the job market, and the true value that their home brings beyond monetary considerations. By acknowledging these factors, York homeowners can confidently approach potential market declines and adapt to the market. That's it for this video. Thank you so much for listening, and I wish you all the best. Take care, guys.